Most people believe drugs are where rebellion begins. That defiance starts the first time someone breaks the law or takes a substance. I don't think that's true, because long before chemicals enter the picture, most of us were already testing authority through music, friendship, humour, and small acts of refusal. If we get the starting point wrong, we misunderstand everything that follows. In this episode, I'm going to show you why rebellion usually comes first, and what that changes about how we think about addiction. Drugs and Addiction, an Anarchist Perspective, Dickie Dredd. This is part 20 of the video series, and we're on chapter 2, The Childhood of Fog. So, section 18, Discovery of the Outside World. School was the first breach in the walls of home. After that quiet dread of the domestic asylum, even the playground felt like anarchy. Volume itself became liberation. Yet the logic of control followed me. Rows, bells, registers, reward and punishment dressed up as learning. The difference was that now I wasn't alone. The other inmates were my age, equally baffled by the machinery of order. Between lessons we formed tiny alliances, jokes, conspiracies, swaps of marbles and contraband comics. The first experiments in solidarity. I wasn't a troublemaker, not exactly. I did just enough to stay out of the spotlight, never enough to belong. The bullies recognised me as one of them, in form, but not in spirit. So I learned the art of camouflage. Friendship was tactical, laughter a shield. Still, some small bonds mattered. They proved that safety could be built sideways, not from above. Mutual aid before I knew the term. When a boy was punished, others slipped him sweets. When someone's lunch spilled, half a sandwich appeared. Fairness wasn't ideology, it was instinct. Music gave the instinct its soundtrack. The radio became a new kind of classroom. Ska, punk, reggae, blues, lessons in honesty wrapped in rhythm. Madness, the Specials, and later Crass all sang what we already sensed, but couldn't yet articulate. That hypocrisy ruled, that authority lied, that freedom sounded better loud. Every song was a small manifesto. By the time I bought my first record, rebellion already had a tempo. Politics you could dance to. In those years I began to glimpse class, though we never named it. Some boys arrived in polished shoes and diagonal sandwiches, others with chip paper and worry. Teachers insisted on equality, but graded our accents. The lesson was obvious. Hierarchy survives even in uniform. That quiet recognition of unfairness was the seed of my later anarchism, the sense that justice can't be granted, it has to be practiced between equals. Outside school, the discoveries multiplied. Music shops, second-hand bookstores, fields at dusk, each was a small republic beyond control. First time I stayed out too long and felt the cold bite as the street lights flickered on, I realised freedom didn't need permission. It could be felt in the body before it was reasoned in the mind. It was education by experience, autonomy as a physical fact. Years later, writing Practical Anarchy, I recognised that childhood prototypes in every real-world example of mutual aid. I had already lived its beta version, the unspoken compact of the playground, the unregulated generosity of the outcast. Kropotkin wrote that cooperation is not a moral choice but a biological fact. I didn't know his name, but I recognised the pulse. Adolescence simply turned the volume up. The mod jacket replaced the blazer, the music got louder, the questions sharper. We mocked prefects, skipped assemblies, played in bands that couldn't tune but told the truth. Rebellion became rhythm, and rhythm became belonging. The hypocrisies of adult authority, teachers preaching honesty while lying, politicians calling greed progress, lost their power once we laughed at them together. That laughter was education too. Those early friendships were my first glimpse of society without masters. Equal parts tenderness and defiance. They bridged the gap between trauma and thought, between watching and living. In that small community of misfits and noise, freedom stopped being abstract. It became human, messy and possible. Freedom, of course, invites initiation. The next lessons weren't learned in classrooms, but in alleyways, pubs and fields, where curiosity met chemistry and theory gave way to practice. And up next, we're still on the chapter, we're on the two more parts in this chapter. We're on part 19, trauma and talent.